pa rin yung mangyayari ngayong afternoon. Ayan. So, ayan. Sabi ni Cheryl, good afternoon daw. Si Edney naman, good afternoon. Good to be back. Good to have you also back here. And si Maria, good afternoon. Si Jocelyn, good afternoon. Ayan, so good afternoon everyone. Please let us also know kung saan kayo nakikinig right now. Yan. So medyo mainit na po, no? Kasi parang summer vibes na talaga. Yan. Ayan, si Cheryl sabi niya from Bacoor, Cavite. So sa may south. Si Angela naman from Splash Corporation. Ooh, interesting. So, ano po ba yung Splash Corporation? Share nyo naman. Si Grace from Bohol. Wow, ang layo talaga na pupunta ng PW every Wednesday. Parang laging nagta-travel. Si Angelica naman from Baguio City. Ayan, si Edna naman from Bacolod, City of Smiles. Pwedeng patingin naman po kami ng smile. Ayan, si Maria from Bulacan. And then si Rodel from Parol and Probation, Gingoog City. Wow, hello po. Ayan si Eleanor sa Cagayan Valley. And nandito na naman yung yung mga friends natin from Always With You Foundation. So good afternoon po. Good afternoon, Miss Marjorie. Ayan, sabi ni Jamaica, good afternoon from Nueva Ecija, HR officers. And first time to join our webinar. So hello, welcome po, first time attendees. Ayan, kung may first time attendees po, pakisabi naman if first time by saying yes sa chat box. Ayan, si Christine, first time attendee, si Eleanor din, si Charissa, si Angelica, si Angelo. Ayan, si Ashley, si Maximine, and si Chris May. So, grabe, ang daming first time attendees. Welcome po sa inyo. Ayan, si Mira rin. She's one of our D&D interns, so first time niya rin. Si Richard and si Marinella. Si Zara, also first time. Ayan, sobrang daming first time attendees. I hope you will have fun and you will also learn from our speaker this afternoon. Ayan, si Pauline na never nag-fail na makinig sa webinar namin. Hello, magical afternoon, Pauline. Yan. So let's just wait for some participants to enter pa. And we'll start in a bit. Yan, sabi ni Rolando, good afternoon. Yan. And also, if you can turn on your cams para makita rin namin yung mga faces nyo, we would love to see your faces po. And kung kaya ng bandwidth, so, ayan. Thank you. Ayan, so, ayan, sabi ni Nelda, magandang hapon po. Yan, sabi ni Gerald, hello, good afternoon, present again from Bulacan State University. Yan. So, ang daming participants this afternoon and I hope you guys will learn. Ayan, may mga nagte-turn on na ng cam. Hello po. Ayan. So, this afternoon, we'll be having Filipino Hope, We Power, and Why Power. And i-discuss po yan ng speaker natin later this afternoon. But before that, ayan. Let's start muna with an introduction. So again, we're Positive Workplaces para po sa mga first-time attendees. We co-create cultures that enhance the well-being of the Filipino workforce. So we believe by this and we stand by this po. Ayan. And syempre, para mangyari yon, we believe that positive cultures are made through positivity ripples. And it starts with leading the self. So, ayan, gagawa po natin yan kapag ma-attend tayo ng mga webinars like this. And at the same time, kapag nangyari yon, we can also lead others. And after leading others, we can also lead cultures that will that will create positive workplaces. And for our March free webinar, so we talked about, let's talk about toxic positivity in the Filipino workplace. And it was, yung first one, it was facilitated by Matthew si Chewy. So he talked about communicating to connect, practicing nonviolent communication. Last week naman po si Gabby, she talked about hanggang kailan ka magtitiis, acknowledging pain and growing from it. And this afternoon, Liang will be talking about Filipino hope, we power, and why power. So I hope makinig po tayo this afternoon kasi for sure marami tayong matutunan. And ayan, some reminders lang, have another device or be ready to go to another link kasi we'll be using Menti later. And then prepare a paper and pen for an activity or maybe try lang po na kapag PDF siguro yung sinend para we can also be engaged dun sa mga activities for this webinar. And of course, we highly encourage engagement with the audience, but please be respectful in the chat. So nakikita naman po namin na very respectful po yung chats and yung pag-engage natin. So that's good po kasi 'di ba we want to learn din naman na simultaneously and gusto rin natin na maging maging fun yung learning nating lahat for this afternoon. And of course, for evaluation form, so the evaluation form will be issued at the end of the webinar for those in the Zoom room only. So naka-live stream po tayo ngayon sa YouTube. If meron pa kayong friends na tingin nyo kailangan nitong webinar na to, you can invite them dito sa Zoom or you can also invite them dun sa YouTube natin if hindi kaya ng bandwidth ng internet nila. But yung evaluation form, yun nga po nasa Zoom room lang. So please remember 10, that's title, email, name, pag fill upan yung evaluation form later. So yung title po natin for this is Filipino Hope. So yun po dapat makita nyo sa start ng form. And then write your email po so para hindi siya nagbabounce or hindi na send sa inyo. And then of course, write your full name na gusto nyo mag-reflect doon sa certificate na ninyo po. And ayan, for any concerns about evaluations or certificates, you may email us at engage@positiveworkplaces.org. And we will only be entertaining inquiries regarding evaluations and certificates up to 1 week after the event. So, ayun po yung mga reminders. Right now, we want to introduce Liang, and she will be our speaker for this afternoon. So Liang, are you ready?
Hello, hi Joyce. Yes, hello and hello everyone. Thank you very much for being here and for joining us in this webinar. So allow me first to share my screen as we begin this afternoon session. So ulit, magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. It's so nice to see all of you, and I see that there are a lot of us coming from all different parts of the country. So magandang araw po at masaya po akong nandito kayo lahat ngayong hapon. So hello, today we're going to talk about Filipino hope and cultivating Filipino hope. Before we begin, papakilala po muna ako. Good afternoon, I'm Liang. I primarily identify as a teacher. I taught in Cubao Elementary School as part of Teach for the Philippines. And I also became part of CHED, the Commission on Higher Education, as a technical staff member. I also co-founded an NGO called Hirayang Kabataan, which does leadership development for young people like SK officials. And I'm also involved in a private school in Marikina called Ingenium, and am teaching in a higher education institution. And so I'm already a lecturer at the Ateneo de Manila University. So yun lang, magandang hapon po, para lang makilala niyo ako a little bit more. And I'm very, very happy to be here. And so during all of this interaction with young people, one thing that I really noticed about them is the aspect of hope and of positive psychology in their lives. So what I noticed is, despite having similar social, psychological, and financial concerns, students who seem more hopeful, to me, yung mga bata na parang mas maraming pag-asa, are also more likely to persevere. And those who seem more hopeless tend to perform poorly academically. They tend to withdraw from their peers. And they also show a lot of signs of distress. And so, from working with them and from being a teacher, I really got interested in hope as a concept. And I decided to pursue and study this further in a Master's of Applied Positive Psychology at the University of Melbourne. And so, this study on hope and the application of this in our children as well as in our lives and in our workplaces is what I would like to share with you this afternoon. So today we are going to talk about hope or pag-asa. And more specifically, we are going to fulfill the following objectives. First, we will ask ourselves, bakit ba mahalaga ang hope? Why is hope important in the Filipino workplace? Secondly, we will look at what hope is and how we Filipinos view hope. And lastly, we will talk about how we can cultivate hope in the workplace. And so this is the flow. And I'm sure if you have been in other positive workplaces webinars, you are familiar with this flow already. But this is the outline of what we are going to talk about today. But since hope is a topic that I'm sure we kind of have an idea about, or lahat tayo merong ideya kung ano ang pag-asa. Lahat tayo naiintindihan ng pag-asa to a certain extent. Magkwentuhan tayo. So let's talk about hope, and let's have a very lively and engaging discussion amongst ourselves as we discuss hope. And so can I ask everyone to go to menti.com and use the code 32281575. Ayan, that's 32281575 so that we can discuss. Ayan, so I think Joyce sent the link to Menti also in the chat box. So I hope everyone can open their Menti and we can begin. And so let us start. My first question for all of us is this. When you hear the words hope o kaya pag-asa, what is the first thing you think of? When you hear the words hope or pag-asa, what is the first thing you think of? So I'm going to stop sharing right now so that Joyce can share our Menti. Ayan. So I see the words already on Menti. We have success. It's okay, may bukas pa. I still have a chance. Future, positivity, family, merong family, may pangarap. Things will work out. Change, smile. Something to look forward to. Bright future. It's a rainbow after the rain. Ang ganda ng words natin, and keep them coming. We have 54 responses so far. Silahis ng liwanag. Ang ganda. Silver lining. Thank you, Lord. Okay, there's a chance. Relief, optimism, new beginning. Dream. Hindi pa tapos. May bukas pa. Blessing, possibilities. Answered prayers in the chat box. Meron ding nagsabi. Sige, so let's wait for more people to put in their answers. Maybe just another minute. Ayan. Bright. Hindi ko ata nasabi ang bright. Miracle. I can do it. Kaginhawaan. Laban lang. Sige, thank you. So let's move on naman to the next question. So the next question is this. Do you think hope is important in your personal and in your professional life? Ayan, Joyce, can I ask you to move it to the next slide, please? Do you think hope is important in your personal and in your professional life? Why or why not? Yan, if we can answer on Menti, that would be much appreciated. Do you think hope is important in your personal and your professional life? Why and why not? Yes, daw, because hope springs eternal. It allows you to keep going. Without hope, you cannot reach your dreams. It keeps you positive and motivated. Okay, it helps us get through bad days and tough challenges. It serves as a promise of better days, an impetus of change and of growth. It's a great strength of man. Ang ganda ng mga sagot natin. Ayan. You won't be able to get out of the tunnel. So you have this imagery of a tunnel and a light at the end of a tunnel. It makes you look forward to something better in the future. It's something you can hold on to. It refuels you to keep you going. It gives you the positive energy to start again. Okay, let's wait for a few more answers. I think we have such nice answers here. Ayan, I needed to survive and thrive and live life to the fullest. It serves as a reminder to believe. It puts it in perspective in the midst of worries and fears. It can help you move forward. It gives you ambitions and dreams for the future of your family. It motivates you to go on as you know you have something to look forward to. Okay, so I see that all of us here agree, right? All of us here agree that hope is important to us. And I saw a lot of metaphors already. Meron na tayong tunnel sa chat box. Meron din tayong rainbow. And let's build on this rainbow metaphor even more. Because this is a quote by one of the forefront psychologists who study hope. And it says, a rainbow is a prism that sends shards of multicolored light in various directions. It lifts our spirits and makes us think of what is possible. Hope is the same, a personal rainbow of the mind. And so similar to what you all said, hope is seen as something that allows you to keep going, diba? It lifts our spirits. It makes us think of what is possible. And so we can think of it as a personal rainbow. May sarili kang bit-bit na rainbow of a promise of a rainbow after the rain, diba? And it's something that will stay with us. But if we look at the power of hope, we actually see that hope is related to a number of positive outcomes. So actually, very powerful yung hope at napakita na ito ng maraming studies in psychology. So for example, from our studies, we know that hopeful people are actually happier. So hope is related to a lot of positive things like life satisfaction o yung pakiramdam na satisfied o kontento ka sa buhay. Related din ang hope sa mood. Related siya sa sense of self-worth. Related siya sa how competent we think we are. It's related also to positive adaptive behaviors and a lot of relational and emotional well-being. Studies have also shown that hopeful people are also less likely to have some negative behaviors like substance abuse and are also less likely to experience symptoms of depression, anxiety, and other mental illnesses. So these studies have shown all of these relationships between hope and positive outcomes and showing that hopeful people are actually happier people and it protects them against a lot of mental illness and all of those negative symptoms. At the same time, hopeful people are also more resilient. So amid trauma or amid adversity, amid lahat ng paghihirap sa buhay, ang pinakita ng ating studies ay na hopeful people are able to protect themselves against negative outcomes like post-traumatic stress, depression symptoms, burnout symptoms, etc. So hope actually serves as a protective factor in resilience. And hope is associated with better coping strategies as well as psychological functioning. So we see here that hopeful people are actually more resilient people. hope actually allows us to bounce back, right? Allows us to bounce back and to persevere despite adversity. And so, what does this look like in the workplace? In the workplace, we know that, and probably you've heard this many times as you've gone through all of your positive workplaces webinars. But we also know that hope, happier and more resilient people are also able to thrive more in the workplace and perform better in work. And so, all of these well-being, all of these positive outcomes are related to performance variables, right? And our job performance. More specifically, in hope, individuals who have high hope, makita natin to sa workplace, they set meaningful, clear, and achievable goals. People who have high hope also create plans and strategies to achieve these goals and are more motivated and highly determined to achieve these goals. So in the workplace, alam nating makakalaga tong mga bagay na to, right? And all of these are related to having high hope. So now we know that why hope is important, and it seems like everyone agrees it is a very, very important thing for us to have. The question now is, ano nga ba talaga ang pag-asa? What is hope? Right? And so in psychology, hope has been studied in many ways. So one core aspect of hope is the presence of a goal. So pag meron tayong pag-asa, meron tayong inaasahan, right? Meron tayong inaasam-asam, meron tayong inaasahan, meron tayong goal na desired outcome na gusto nating makamit. And now, in regards to the goal, Snyder, psychologist, talks about two aspects or two components of hope, namely way power and willpower. So way power is the sense of pathways thinking. Ito yung paghahanap natin ng paraan. So ang hope, kasama sa hope ang paghahanap, ang kakayanan nating maghanap ng paraan patungo sa ating goal o sa ating desired outcome. So maybe these pathways are sets of sequential steps. Pwedeng sabihin natin, okay, step 1, para ma-achieve ang goal ko, ito ang gagawin ko. Step 2, ito naman ang gagawin ko. Kunwari, gusto nating ma-promote sa trabaho. Probably one step we can think of would be to upskill. Baka kailangan natin mag-enroll sa isa pang course o sa workshops, kailangan natin makipag-webinar with positive workplaces, o kaya another step might be having a good performance evaluation and meeting targets. So all of these steps fall under way power or pathways thinking. Therefore, hope, hindi lang siya sana, hindi lang siya wishful thinking na sana mangyari. Kasi sa hope, meron kang paraan, merong steps na naisip natin para ma-achieve ang ating goal. At madalas, hindi lang to isang set of steps. Madalas, meron tayong multiple pathways o kaya plan A, plan B, plan C, etc. just to achieve our goal. And so, we're able to think, sige, kung hindi nag-work out yung plan A, okay lang, may plan B pa ako, right? And so all of these are different pathways under way power. Secondly, we also have willpower. Willpower now is defined as the motivational component. So ito yung pagsusumikap, ito yung determinasyon, ito yung commitment na kailangan para ma-achieve yung goal. So this includes the ability to continue being motivated kahit pagod na, kahit nahihirapan, and being relentless in our goal pursuit. So that's the second big aspect of hope. But looking at this theory and looking also at our earlier definitions, parang medyo may kulang, right? This theory was proposed in the 90s and was studied highly in the West, in Western cultures. And if we compare this to our own perception of hope, parang di pa siya kompleto. Baka meron tayong pwedeng idagdag pa. And this is exactly what other psychologists from Australia naman did. They expanded Snyder's hope theory to include two more factors, why power and we power. So why power? It's the sense of meaning we have behind our goals. Bakit mahalaga sa atin ang goal na ito? Bakit siya makabuluhan? Bakit gusto natin siyang mangyari? How does it fulfill our sense of purpose or our search for meaning? How valuable or meaningful is our goal? And in our earlier Menti word cloud, kitang-kita, lumabas agad, merong aspect of family. Because for many of us Filipinos, Many of our goals are incredibly valuable because they are tied up with our love for our family and for our community, which also leads us now to the fourth component of hope, namely we power. So yung we power, it accounts for all the other external or contextual elements that influences our sense of hope. So this includes the social resources brought about by our pakikipagkapwa, pakikiisa, our bayanihan, and the role that this social context and these resources play in our hopefulness. And so here in our hope theory, medyo lumalim yung dami ng components natin, di ba? Meron na tayong sense of meaning, may dahilan bakit natin gusto ma-achieve yung goal. At the same time, maliban sa paglalim, meron ding paglawak. Lumabas siya sa ating sarili, tiningnan din niya ang konteksto, ano ang social context at ang resources na kasama sa ating hope. Tapos, dinagdagan pa ito even more. And this time by a local psychologist. So Professor Alan Bernardo is from De La Salle University, and he added locus of hope dimensions in our understanding of hope. And with many Filipino populations, he studied how hope can actually come from an internal source. Merong internal locus of hope dimensions. Baka ang source ng hope mo ay ang sarili mong sense of mission, ang sarili mong dahilan, ang sarili mong motivation. Pero posible rin that hope will come from an external source. So it might be that the locus of hope comes from things like family, peers, or spirituality. So kasama rin, lalo na sa atin sa Pilipinas, yung sense of hope coming from our faith, right? And our religion. And so this also talks about hope for a Filipino. And so looking at this now, this whole slide, I feel like this kind of shows us a better idea and gives us a better idea of what hope is for Filipinos, right? Because meron tayong inaasahan, meron tayong inaasam-asam. At para makamit to, marami tayong iba't ibang paraan na hinahanap. Matyaga tayo at nagsusumikap tayo at hindi tayo sumusuko. Mahalaga sa atin kung ano tong inaasahan natin, and this sense of meaning, most of the time comes from family, and comes from spirituality, and comes from being with others in our communities. And it's the same outward social context that now allows us to achieve our goal sa pamamaraan ng pakikiisa at pakikipagkapwa. And so this here provides us with a clearer, more robust, and deeper understanding of what hope is for us Filipinos. But let's zoom in a little bit more. Let's bring this down to the personal. What does hope look like for us? Ano ang pag-asa para sa'yo? And so to understand our own conceptualization and thoughts about hope, we prepared this worksheet for everyone. And so we have a worksheet. It is currently in the Positive Workspaces site. I think, Joyce and the team, they sent a link to the chat box right now. Ayan, and we can all download this worksheet. If we have access to a computer, that would be great. At the moment, if not, kahit on a sheet of paper, we can write down our answers. Okay, let's write down our answers and let's try to map out our own conceptualization of hope. Sige nga, can I get a thumbs up if you already have either a copy of the worksheet or if you have a sheet of paper which you can answer the worksheet on. Ayan, so I have thumbs up. I have people whose thumbs are up already. I can see that. Thank you very much. Again, if we cannot access the worksheet, it's okay. We can just use a sheet of paper in answering all of these questions. So let's start with the first blue box, which is the goal. So maybe in the box, you can write down what is it that you hope for? Ano ang inaasahan at inaasam-asam mo? And you can write that down in the blue box. Afterwards, you can go on to this right-hand side. Why power? Why is this goal important? Bakit siya mahalaga sa'yo? And you can write as many as you want. So wag po tayo malimit din sa ating mga kahon. Kung gusto nyong dagdagan, gusto nyong i-partition, wala pong problema. From our why power, let's look at willpower. What strategies are you using or will you use to keep yourself motivated and determined? Paano ka magsusumikap? Paano ka hindi susuko? At what social resources can you tap as you work towards your goal? Sino-sino ang mga katuwang mo sa proseso na ito? Lastly, go into way power. What steps will you take to reach this goal? Ano ang iba't ibang paraan para maabot ito? So you see, we have here different arrows. You can write down different steps here. You might even want to divide this for plan A, yung left side, plan A muna. Yung right side, plan B. And you can write down your answers here. And so I'm going to give you 10 minutes now to do this on your own. Again, if you don't have the worksheet, you can always answer on a sheet of paper. And maybe at the very end, um, you can take a photo of your work and share it on our Padlet. So we have a Padlet that you can share your hope maps in. Okay? So if there are any questions, you can ask those questions in the chat box. If not, I'll mute myself for the next 10 minutes. I think Joyce will have music for us as we do this. And then let's see what we have, what we come up with when we go back. Okay, if you're able to answer the worksheet or just jot down your answers on your cell phones or on any sheet of paper, it would be great if you can share it to our Padlet. So the link is in the chat box, or you can use the QR code as well. And it would be great to see some of your answers. Ayan, sige. So, let me share my screen once again. So just look at some of the of hope maps that we have on Padlet so far. So this is one of them. And you see here, the goal is to become financially stable. Ayan, feeling ko marami sa atin na kasali dito at may similar goal. And the reasons, the why power is for me and my family's needs, to sustain recreational activities, to be able to contribute to the community. Ayan, so ito yung mga why power, yung reasons kung bakit mahalaga sa taong ito maging financially stable. Now, looking at the willpower, anong strategies niya? Consistently reflecting on how much I invest in my passion and hobbies. Asking myself why I am doing what I am doing. So, para sa taong to siguro, it is makakapagpalakas, makakapagbigay ng motivation, yung pag-reflect, bakit ko nga ba to gusto? Right? And so that is the source of willpower in this example. Then you have your we power. The friends, the family, the mentors, the neighbors can help this person achieve their goals. And of course, different pathways to do this, arranging tasks in a checklist format, being kind to myself and others, rigorously learning how to do the tasks, mapping out my career path, doing self-development activities. So ayan, may magaganda siyang pathways para ma-achieve ang kanyang goal. Let's look at others as well. Ayan, let's see. Ato, sige, goal is weight loss. Ayan, isa ring napakahalagang goal that I'm sure a number of us also want to be healthier. And we have health also as one of our priorities. So why is this important? To be healthy and happy, to gain more self-confidence. Because when I'm happy, I'm able to serve others better. Ways to do this. So ano yung mga possible pathways? Consult an expert, eating more mindfully, setting time for movement. And of course, in terms of the pathways to do this, you have and the strategies to do this, your willpower, you have setting a daily schedule, seeking help, staying positive, setting a reward system, and getting help from experts, family, and friends. Sige, let's see other answers on our Padlet. Ito, merong magpapass ng Chemical Engineering Board exam. I-manifest din namin yun for you. So it is a dream, and that is part of the reason why this is important as a personal dream and for the family, and to reach dreams and become more successful. And some things to keep this person motivated daw ay prayer, inspiration, motivation, family. And strength is also going to be drawn from God, family, and friends. And there are things here also, pathways in order to do this. And so thank you very much for sharing. If you have more, keep them coming. It would be nice for us to end up with a big Padlet of hope, di ba? Parang naglagay tayo ng mga kwentong pag-asa natin lahat on Padlet. And that is going to be so nice and meaningful for everyone as well. And so now that many of us are done with our hope maps, may I ask you all to again go back on Menti, right? Let's all try to go back on Menti. I think Joyce will also send the link again in the chat box. And the question now is, looking at your own hope map and looking at the maps of other people, how do you feel? How does this make you feel? Diba? Parang how did you find the activity? What does it feel like looking at hope like this afterwards? And so can I ask everyone to go on Menti and answer this question? Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen again. There you go. We have the answers on Menti. People are feeling more hopeful. and more positive about what is to come. It gives you a nice picture of your direction in life. There's something to look forward to and to celebrate. You feel more inspired, more determined, right? More motivated. It's like reviewing your decisions, your passions. It fuels you. I hope it energizes you to achieve your goals. It gives you a positive outlook in life. It is refreshing. It renews your views about your goals. Maybe it reminds you why it is important or why your goal is meaningful for you. It motivates you to have your own hope map also. And you're more determined. You have more concrete steps. So you're able to actually specify ano ba yung steps para ma-achieve ko yung goal na to. Right? It makes you want to persevere more. It makes you very hopeful. You found it helpful. I'm glad. It makes your goals more clear. You have more optimism. Binibigyan ka ng rason na lalaban at hindi susuko. Right? And so this time, naalala natin, bakit nga pala natin to gusto gawin? Bakit nga pala to mahalaga sa atin? And so you're now feeling more reinvigorated, right? Ayan. So thank you very, very much for your responses. And I'm glad that for many of us, doing the hope mapping activity actually has helped us feel more hopeful. And moving now to the last part of our session, answering the question, how do we cultivate hope? Our hope mapping activity is actually one of the ways that we can cultivate hope, not just in ourselves, but also in our workplaces or with our team. So maybe mapping your goals and thinking about what are the strategies, what pathways, and why our goals are important is something you can take away from this webinar and bring back to your workplace. Baka sa susunod na meeting, mag-start tayo by mapping our hope individually and sharing this with our group. And maybe in talking about hope, we can also build relationships with our teammates in our workplace. And so this worksheet is available for you on the website. You can download it anytime. And you can also use it to cultivate hope and hopeful thinking within your groups. But at this point, laliman pa natin further. Ano pa ba pwede natin gawin para mag-cultivate ng hope sa ating workplaces? And so, according to our research, we see that we can cultivate hope during the planning stage, for example, of all of our activities at work. So, sanay tayo mag-set ng SMART goals, right? Alam natin tong SMART. Paulit-ulit tayo nagsa-specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. But maybe to add to that, let's try to also make our goals even more meaningful and connect that to something that people will find worthwhile. So for example, baka sa strategic planning natin, pwede natin pag-usapan ng mas matagal kung bakit mahalaga na ma-meet natin yung targets natin. Ano ibig sabihin nun for our customers? Ano ibig sabihin nun for our clients? At ano ibig sabihin nun para sa ating mga sarili? So maybe in trying to make the goals meaningful and trying to help everyone understand the meaning behind the goals, that can also increase or cultivate hope in our teams. Another way would be by developing multiple pathways to achieve a goal. So sabi nga natin, baka pwede tayong mag-isip na ng plan A, plan B, at plan C. Or even before we decide on one pathway, maybe looking at multiple pathways and just seeing all the possibilities and prototyping all of these possibilities can also be helpful in cultivating our sense of hope. After we make our plans, the next part would be connecting with ourselves and with others. So, for example, while trying to achieve our goal, maybe it would be very important to connect this goal to our own sense of meaning as well as our own motivations. And so, connecting the goal with the individual person, connecting the mission of the organization with what is important to each of its employees, right? Connecting the value system, the core values of the organization with an individual's own personal values, beliefs, and strengths. This goes also with this whole idea of connecting our goal with the individual person in order to cultivate hope. Furthermore, we can connect also the goal with our spirituality and our faith, and trying to understand how service, for example, aligns with our love of God and love of neighbor, diba? And also nurture all of those connections among the members of our group and the social connections within our organization. So things like organizational culture, positive relationships, all of these things will also lead to better hope or an increase in hope. And lastly, we can also monitor our progress towards our goal, as well as adapt to new information or after obstacles or challenges. So what does this mean? Maybe throughout the process of achieving our goal, it's important to always look back and check, saan na ba tayo? Sa lahat ng mga steps na nilagay natin sa ating pathways, alin na yung nagawa natin? Ano yung mga results ng bawat action na yon? Ano yung nangyari? Meron ba tayong kailangan i-modify? Kailangan ba nating bawasan, dagdagan, i-edit yung goal natin? Kailangan ba natin mag-isip ng bago pang pathway? So, being able to monitor as well as adapt to these changes, developments, also increases our sense of hope. And so, I hope ulit, I hope that this is something you can take away from this session, and that now you're already starting to think, pagpasok ko ulit bukas o kaya pagbalik natin from Holy Week, ano kaya yung pwede nating i-apply sa ating workplace at sa ating teams? What activities, actions, discussions can we do or make in order to cultivate hope in our teams? And so at this point, maybe we can start thinking about it further. And like on Menti, can we write, what is one thing you can do to cultivate hope in your workplace? As these ideas come, as you think about all of these different initiatives or strategies, maybe you can share it with the rest of the group on Menti. What is one thing you can do to cultivate hope in your workplace? And so I'll stop sharing now so that we can see answers also. Ayan. Meron tayong from example, tama? Pwede? Right? Being positive and radiating positivity, showing hope by example and modeling hope might be a way, right, to cultivate hope in your workplace. Cheering on your colleagues, encouraging, providing that social support also cultivates hope. Encouraging everyone to be resilient. Ayan. Meron tayong don't be a negatron and less dark humor. Baka that also goes with cheering everyone on and having that we power social connection and social resources. Ayan, assure them that I am here to support them and be their we power. A great application. Sharing your learning experiences with your colleagues. Yan, pwede rin. Kasi this also sharing what we learned, right? And what we know might provide further pathways, might provide further opportunities. Be an example of hope. Ayan, being motivated always. Ang ganda kasi kita natin na a lot of these changes, that if we want to do change in our workplace, a lot of that starts with ourselves, right? And so being motivated, always being a model, being an example of what it looks like to be hopeful also is very, very helpful. Express gratitude, relate to the broader vision of the organization. Express support and encouragement. Okay, kita natin dito the meaning. We're trying to put meaning and remember the why behind our hope. Do hope mapping. Ayan, may gagamit ng ating hope map sa susunod niyang meeting. Correct? Pagbalik sa workplace. Smiling, showing positive qualities, serving as a model. Navigating networks should be supported and not looked down upon. So you have here the social connection, using your social connection, your we power in achieving the goal. Being a better teacher, being a good listener, helping them achieve goals. Ayan. So thank you very much for all of these inputs. I hope hope mapping is a tool that you'll be able to use a lot of in your own work and with your own communities. Ayan, again, so you can have this if you want to screenshot it with the questions, you can do that as well, but you can also always refer back to the Positive Workspaces website to get a copy of your hope map. Also, this one would be a very nice slide to screenshot and to remember, just to serve as a guide for all of us to know na, o nga pala, ito ang hope. Right? And when we say, huwag ka mawala ng pag-asa, what we actually mean is keep on looking for pathways. Huwag ka mawala ng pag-asa means keep motivating yourself. Huwag ka mawala ng pag-asa means always remember your why. And huwag ka mawala ng pag-asa means rely on social support and networks and see how you can work together to achieve these goals. And so at the end of the day, we were able to go through why hope is important, what hope is, and how we can cultivate hope in our workplace. Hopefully, by going through all of these things and having all of these takeaways, we're able to become more hopeful individuals and lead more hopeful teams in order to make the world a more hopeful place for everyone. So thank you very much. These are our reference, and I'll hand the mic over to Joyce for a Q&A.
Ayan. Thank you so much, Liang. Sobrang daming learnings for that session. And I think right now we can go to our questions na. So we can go to Pigeonhole. Mag-log in lang po kayo. Then you can also write your questions na there. Yan. You can share yung QR. You can scan the QR code or you can click the link na pinost po ni Kelly sa chat box. So, ayan. So, habang naghihintay, maybe we can go here now. Since meron ng 1. O, ayan, may 2 na. So, what do you want to answer first, Liam?
Okay, let's start with the first one. Can we use the hope map regularly? And the answer here is yes. We can definitely use the hope map regularly. Actually, you might want to have one hope map per goal at this point, or pwede natin siyang tingnan in terms of the bigger picture of ano ba yung malaking goals natin for ourselves and for our own lives. So yes, we can use the hope map regularly. We can check back on it. We can modify it. You can even make your own maps kung merong format na mas mag-work for you. If mahilig tayo mag-arts, baka natin gusto natin i-design, lagay natin sa ating mga padel to serve as a reminder of what it is we are hopeful for.
Yeah, thank you so much, Liang. And habang ginagawa yan kanina, sobrang nagkaroon lang din ako ng parang vision and mas na-motivate ako. So thank you so much for that hope map. And feeling ko magagamit ko rin talaga siya sa mga different goals ko pa. And ayan.
Okay. Ayan. So, I see here, meron tayong 2 votes right away. How do you differentiate hoping and gaslighting? Very, very interesting question. Thank you very, very much for asking this. And this is very interesting kasi yung isa sa mga core ideas of gaslighting ay yung pag-invalidate. Right? Yung pag-invalidate ng experience, ng negative emotions, saying na dapat di mo yan maramdaman, o dapat hindi ka mahirapan, o bakit yan yung nararamdaman mo. Right? Isa yun sa mga core parts of gaslighting. So the difference between hoping and gaslighting would be that acknowledgement of the negative sides of things. So in hope, hindi naman natin sinasabi na hindi ka mahihirapan, o wala kang karapatang mahirapan, or wala kang karapatang malungkot. Right? In hope, what we're saying is, okay, may mga challenges nga. Oo nga, mahirap minsan, masakit, nagsastruggle ako, nagsasuffer ako, pero kahit na nagsastruggle ako at nagsasuffer ako, hindi pa rin tapos. Right? Meron pa rin pag-asa, meron pa rin paraan, at meron pa rin akong kayang gawin. And so there is this aspect of acknowledging. And after acknowledging the negative, acknowledging the suffering, the difficulty, the next part would be rising from that and trying again. And I think that is what would differentiate that sense of hope from just gaslighting and saying, wala kang karapatang makaramdam yan, wala kang karapatang mahirapan, or hindi ka naman talaga nahihirapan. Sa hope, alam natin, mahihirapan ka, right? Challenging talaga siya. May suffering talaga na involved. Pero susubok at tatayo ulit. Ayun. So I hope I was able to answer that question.
Yeah, thank you so much, Liang. And that's super true, no? Kasi para minsan ang hirap din talaga. But I like what you said na susubok pa rin despite the difficulties that you will encounter. So yeah.
And maybe, Joyce, I can connect that to that next question of toxic positivity, right? Because I see a question already of differentiating hope from toxic positivity. I think if you talk about toxic positivity, it's kind of the same. Kasi sa toxic positivity, ang sinasabi natin ay, huwag mo na problemahin yan, pakasayahan na lang, right? Or just idaan mo lang sa ngiti. Okay na yan lahat, idaan mo lang sa ngiti. So part of that toxic positivity also is the like not acknowledging the negative parts. Part of toxic positivity is not invalidating, but it's invalidating the suffering or the difficulty or the challenges. And again, that's not what hope is, right? So in hope, we identify and we validate and we recognize and we acknowledge that there is suffering, that there is hardship, that there are challenges. But then what hope is parang despite the challenge or despite the hardship or despite the suffering, I have this goal that I really want to achieve, and I will look for the way and the strategies and the pathways in order to do this. So meron kang specific steps. Meron tayong specific na gagawin para ma-achieve yung goal natin. Kasi nga, ito rin, very good comment here also from Carla. Thank you for adding. It's having those strategies and those action plans. That is also what differentiates hope from toxic positivity. Hindi lang siya parang, maging positive ka na lang or maging happy ka na lang. Wala naman dong action plan, right? And so having those, again, number one, acknowledging the suffering and the difficulty. And secondly, having those strategies, pathways, and next steps will differentiate hope from toxic positivity. Thank you.
Thank you, Liang. And yeah, that's true, no? And I love na nakasagot na rin si Carla sa chat box kasi it means na natutunan na agad and na-process na agad yung learnings from you. And meron ding question sa chat box si Benjamin. So ano po, Ma'am Liang, na Filipino value ang makaka-contribute the best for instilling Filipino hope?
Thank you, Benjamin, for that question. Honestly, I feel like, and I know that Positive Workplaces also had this conversation in this webinar before. Parang nagkaroon na tayo ng webinar on kaginhawaan, tama, di ba? Kaginhawaan, which is the Filipino conceptualization of hope. Alam kong nasa YouTube to, so kung meron gustong manood at pakinggan, yung webinar na yon, makakatulong yon, di ba? Pero kasi sa Filipinos, ang central part ng idea natin of kaginhawaan ay ang pamilya, ang love of family, right? And so this love of family for us really transcends all parts of that hope map, all parts of hope. Kasi ang goal natin therefore would be in relation to our family. Ano yung goal natin for our family? Ang why natin, yung why power natin also comes from that love of family. Yung way power natin, hahanapan mo ng paraan, dediskartehan mo yan kung basta para sa pamilya mo. Right? And so this love of family, I feel like would be one big Filipino trait, Filipino value that we can also use to instill hope. And the second one would be our sense of spirituality. Kasi as Filipinos, we also are a very religious and spiritual nation. And actually, if we look at faith, and dami ring things about hope within our faith. So we can think of faith as like that guiding force and light that gives us an eternity to look forward to, right? And when we can look at our hope theory and psychology as the tools, as the strategies we can use in order to concretize and see this hope, this faith in our own lives. Yeah, so yun. Maybe our love of family as well as our spirituality and our religion, to answer Benjamin's question. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Liang. And I love how you parang gave us options na merong family and merong faith for those na who doesn't believe in faith. So ayan. And we have so many questions. Baka may gusto kang sagutin?
Sige, isa-isahin natin yan. Okay, so a good question, how to maintain hope amid adversity? So, ang ganda ng tanong nito kasi marami ring adversity talaga, right? And part ng ano natin, ng understanding natin dito ay yung pag-acknowledge na maraming adversity, maraming paghihirap, maraming suffering, maraming kalungkutan, maraming negative things in our world. Pero the task to maintain hope amid adversity, we can also go back again to our model of hope in order to answer this question. Because maybe one thing we can do to maintain hope amid adversity is to always ask why our goal is important to us. Ano ba yung meaning ng goal? Maybe in looking at the meaning in the why power, we will be energized and motivated to keep going kahit gaano kahirap. Or maybe we can think of other pathways. Baka pag naghihirap tayo, pag nagsasuffer tayo, what will help us maintain hope is to think of other pathways or other steps, other options. Baka hindi nag-work yung plan A at plan B at plan C, baka aabot na ako sa plan D, and that will allow me to maintain my hope despite the adversities. Maybe I can rely on other people and use my social system or social support system, talk to my friends, talk to my family, and maybe they can help me become more hopeful even if I'm having a hard time. Right? So maybe going back to our hope map and going back to our model, we can try to hit all of those four things, your we power, your why power, your willpower, and your way power to maintain hope despite or amid the adversity. And secondly, when does optimism become unhealthy? So interesting to kasi ni-raise natin yung optimism. Actually, iba yung pag-conceptualize ng optimism tsaka ng hope. Ano ang pinagkaiba? Ang hope kasi malinaw yung pathways. Yung optimism, not necessarily. So pwede ka maging optimistic kahit wala ka necessarily na naisip na paraan para ma-achieve ang isang bagay. Optimistic ka lang. Pero wala ka necessarily paraan. And so, optimism becomes unhealthy if it is unrealistic. If optimism becomes unhealthy pag hindi naman talaga achievable or wala talagang paraan para makuha mo yung goal na yon or yung inaasahan mo. And that is when it becomes unhealthy. Secondly, it also becomes unhealthy if it leads to what we were talking about earlier, toxic positivity and gaslighting. Kasi pwede na kung optimistic, unhealthy siya pag iniisip mo na wala talagang negative or ini-invalidate mo yung negative experience para optimistic ka lang. So yun yung mga sagot ko. I hope nasagot ko yung questions in a clear way. Thank you.
Yay, thank you so much, Liang. And ayun, totoo na parang when it comes to hope, parang kailangan meron tayong mga pathways, and when it comes to optimism naman, medyo unclear siya. And ngayon, nalinawan na rin ako, nagkaroon ako ng enlightenment na, okay, so yun pala yung differentiation nilang dalawa. So thank you so much, Liang. And we have a lot of time pa. Do you want to answer some pa?
No problem. Ayan, so I think we've answered, some of them already, like yung combating or stopping toxic positivity. Can you hear me well? Okay lang ba?
Yes.
Yes, okay. And so yan, meron tayong mga how to not lose hope. I think we've answered those. Ito, how do you give hope to someone who's hopeless and depressed? Okay, a very interesting question. And I'm sure perhaps may times na marami ding tao talaga nag-vent sa atin o nag-express ng feelings nila of sadness, of depression to us. So first of all, we should be a bit careful then in terms of things like depression. Kasi it's possible that we really have friends or people who we know and love who would need professional help. And so one thing would really be to go through to seek professional help from a licensed psychologist to help with mental illnesses such as depression. Kasi madalas, or hindi naman madalas, may times na kahit anong good intention natin, kung hindi sumasakto yung yung sinasabi natin to a friend who has depression, hindi siya nakakatulong. Baka nga minsan, hindi pa baka like maging mas negative pa kaysa sa makatulong. So one important thing would be if we know that somebody is going through a very tough time and it has these mental health concerns, it would be good to consult a professional psychologist on this. So that is one. But secondly, baka the question is, how do you give hope to somebody who is venting? Di ba? Baka pwedeng mas ganon. Who is venting, who is sharing a negative experience. Doon tayo medyo mas makakalugar as lay people. And so for that, the answer now would be trying to go back again to our hope theory and our hope maps and trying to help our friend expand the horizon, expand their own perspective, widen the perspective to look at other possibilities. Pero yung number one na una natin kailangan gawin would be to listen. Listening would be the first step before we can even help anybody expand and widen their perspective on whatever is happening. So to summarize, number one, if it's a mental health concern or a mental illness, it would be best to consult to direct our friend to a professional psychologist or counselor. Second would be to listen. Yung pinakamahalaga would be to listen and to just serve as a source of social emotional support to another person. Baka tayo yung we power na kailangan niya at that moment. And then third would be to try to help that person expand or widen his or her or their perspective to see ano pa ba yung mga ibang possibilities. Ano pa ba yung ibang paraan? Baka kailangan nila ng tulong mag-isip ng pathways. And that is something we can help with.
Yay, thank you, Leah. And I love na merong contextualization yung answers mo na yung first one is kailangan talaga ng professional help and yung second one naman is someone who's venting lang. So, ayan. Thank you so much. And ayan, marami pang questions. Baka may gusto ka pang sagutin.
Sige, ano pa ang gusto nating sagutin? Meron ka bang extra favorite question, Joyce? Maybe you have time for like 2 more questions before we end. Because I think some are things that we've discussed already or we've touched on. Ayan. So there's another question, I think, on using hope mapping as a team. Yes, that would be great. You would love that. Please do use it. Ayan. Interesting also yung question on resilience. Maybe in the future, we can also have a dedicated yan. Baka kwento niya sa positive workplaces. I'm sure some of the people in positive workplaces can also talk to us more on resilience kasi mahaba-habang usapan din si resilience.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we have specific questions about opportunities, right? Employment opportunities and hope. So I think a lot of these things are related to pathways, looking for pathways. So that is something that we can help other people with. Because for example, if we see na, okay, ang hirap ma-employ, kulang talaga employment opportunities in this sector. And so yun yung next question would be, ano yung other available pathways? Ano yung other available pathways for you? And this is also where society as a whole is very important, di ba? Kasi yung availability of pathways, talagang may impact doon yung economy, may impact yung social structure, may impact yung availability of resources, yung education, etc., etc. And so, for example, pag sinasabi natin nagpapatrabaho tayo, nagbibigay tayong trabaho, what we're actually doing is we're providing pathways. And so, that's a very, very important thing to look at. And we also value all of the work that I'm sure many of you also are doing to provide pathways for other people. But going back to the question, yun nga, ang challenge natin dito ay how do we help people look for pathways? Despite the limitations of society as a whole. Yun, pathways. So able to answer that. Ayun.
Ayan. Thank you so much, Leah. And maybe we have time for one more.
Sige, let's go for one last question. Ko na alam kung ano ba yung gusto nating sagutin of the question. Ayan. Sige, I think going back na lang, and maybe I can end with this also, Joyce, for our session for today. No, going back to the question, and I think this is one of the questions now we're seeing a lot of, it just phrased in different ways, with different contexts. And I think I'm gonna share my screen again to show this. No, kasi yung question natin madalas would be, how do you give hope, right? How do you help others become more hopeful? And the question goes back to, at iba-iba yung circumstances, right? Yung iba, people who have disabilities who are having a hard time gaining employment, or yung iba, people who are venting or are sad, and who are feeling hopeless. And so the question now is, how do we give hope? And this theory and this slide actually gives us the answer to that question. 'Di ba? Kasi baka yung wala yung taong to right now would be a pathway kasi wala nga employment opportunity. So maybe what could help would be either one, to help them think of more pathways, or maybe two, to go back to why that is important to them. Or maybe to look at number three, or to go into ano ba yung social support na pwede nilang makuha. So maybe just being there for the person can give them hope. And so this, I hope, can serve as a guide for everyone. Pag tinanong mo na, how can you spread hope or cultivate hope in anybody else, we can go back to this slide and to these four things. And going back to our maps and looking at these four things, because these are the things that will then contribute to a person's sense of hope. So for example, if wala talagang way power, wala talagang pathway right now kasi walang opportunities, maybe that your why power, your willpower, and your we power can keep the person going. Tama? Or maybe at this point, ang wala nang we power, napakahina ng social support, pero malakas pa rin yung willpower, why power, and way power. So all of these four things can answer that question of what can we do to cultivate hope in other people, especially if they come to us to ask for help. And so with that, I think, okay na ba tayo dun, Joyce? Can we end on that note? Or meron pa ba tayong pahabol?
Yeah, I think we're good na, Lian.
Okay, so with that, let's just look at this one last time and remember that our hope is composed of four things: way power, or your pathways thinking; willpower, ang iyong pagsusumikap; why power, or your sense of meaning; and we power, which is the social context and the social resources. And hopefully, thank you, we can all have these vibrant, colorful rainbows of hope in ourselves and cultivate the same hope in other people. Once again, thank you very much for your engagement and participation throughout our session, and may you have vibrant and colorful personal rainbows in the week to come. Maraming salamat po.
Ayan, thank you so much, Liang. And sobrang dami naming learnings this afternoon. And ayan, with that, we're ending po our March webinar series. So thank you so much, Liang. And right now, we just want to introduce to you guys yung positive communication course. So, alam ko isa 'to sa mga hino-hope din natin sa mga workplaces natin to really have a good communication with our colleagues, with our bosses. So, if you're interested, and yun nga yung sinabi namin kanina na it starts with you. So, if you're interested, you may enroll in our PCC, our Positive Communication course, to learn more about positive communication. And for sure, marami kayong matutunan kasi ang dami talagang testimonies about it. And you can visit this link, or you can scan the QR code on your screens for it para you can enroll na. Kasi alam ko meron pang early bird rate. So sayang naman, baka gusto nyo pa. And if you want na isama yung mga friends nyo, yung mga colleagues nyo, pwedeng-pwede rin po kasi sayang naman yung promo. So ayun. And ayun na nga, so we're ending our let's talk about toxic positivity in the Filipino workplace. So tapos na po yung March webinar series, and we want to thank Liang for ending it so well and teaching us about hope. So thank you so much, Liang, for it. And next month, we will have our strengths coaching for leaders naman. So we will have our chief officers of positive workplaces. So we have Gio, we have Nikki, we have John na to talk about strengths coaching. So we'll post more about this sa Facebook page po namin. So kapag hindi pa kayo naka-follow, bakit? Joke lang. So ayan, you can follow us on Facebook, and para makita nyo rin po uh, kung saan kami nagpo-post about our webinars or our thought leadership posts. Ayan, yung mga tough or toxic, about toxic boss, and how to move on from a job. So baka nakaka-relate kayo. Meron po niyan lahat sa Facebook page namin, and you can go directly to this link to follow us. And para updated na rin kayo sa mga webinar schedules namin. Ayan. And you can also follow us on TikTok kasi meron kaming content about Filipino leadership and student leadership also. So if you're on TikTok, you can also follow us kasi magpo-post po kami ng mga content for it. And of course, lastly, you can answer our post-eval forms na in this QR. You can scan the QR, or you can click the link that Kelly posted po sa chat box. So again, wait lang po tayo sa e-certificates. Darating po yan. And masyado po tayong marami right now, pero I hope na makarating po siya sa inyo sooner. Ayan. So thank you so much again, Liang. Thank you everyone for joining.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.